My name is Tim Murray, and my presentation is on the Jefferson Davis Monument in Richmond, Virginia, which was erected in 1907 and then was removed by protesters first in 2020 after George Floyd's murder, and then recently removed by the city in 2022 permanently. And my study of the Jefferson Davis Monument is supposed to recontextualize the circumstances behind building it based on my studies of the individuals who work towards that goal and the goals of their organizations, which were perpetuating the lost cause narrative and glorifying the racial hierarchy that the Confederacy fought for. The monument sits on Monument Avenue in Richmond, where 5 of the 6 monuments are glorifying Confederates, and in none of these monuments is slavery ever mentioned. So, who is Jefferson Davis? He was the president of the Confederacy, first and only, and he fought to protect slavery, which he defended in quotes as a moral and as a social good, due to his belief in the inferiority of African Americans. So those are the values that he believed in and what he fought for, if that says anything about the man he was. So despite those values, these people still chose to honor him. First on the left, we have James Taylor Ellison. He was a Richmond howitzer during the war, which was a Confederate military unit. And then after the war, he was in numerous organizations for veterans. He was in Southern historical societies, and he wrote textbooks that glorified the Confederacy or helped put them in place in schools. And he did that while he was mayor of Richmond, the president of the Richmond Board of Education, and the state Democratic Committee chair of Virginia. So his career spanned from 1978 to 1916, which was was when the implementation of Jim Crow laws was happening. So during his time as board or the president of the Richmond Board of Education, in a federal census, it said that 44.6% of African Americans in Virginia older than 10 classified as illiterate by the time he relinquished his seat. And then you also have a quote from him while they were rewriting the Constitution in 1902, telling white voters that him and his constituents will not fail to be responsive to the wishes of their constituents, the white voters. For every Democrat in the convention knows that the convention would never have been held but for the desire of the white people of this Commonwealth to have enacted such constitutional provision as would take away the Negro the right to vote. So he knew exactly what he was doing, and he was not scared of saying that. And then you have the UCV and the UDC, which perpetuated the lost cause greatly. You have both of them would host parades. They wanted Southern history written by Southern historians. And then you have, so what the lost cause was it was teaching people that slaves and masters worked well together, as you see in this textbook approved by the UDC on the right, that the Civil War is about states' rights. The South chose to fight for those rights, knowing that they were outnumbered, and this somehow justifies their defeat, and it justifies slavery. So you have like Historian General Mildred L. Rutherford of the UDC. She recommended that any book that suggests the Confederacy fought to protect slavery should be rejected by Southern schools. Abraham Lincoln cannot be glorified, and Jefferson Davis cannot be vilified, to name a few recommendations. And by looking at like other areas that reveals the reason behind the building the monuments, such as the Jefferson Davis Monument, it's clear why they should be taken down, because they all are working towards the goal of maintaining white supremacy and hiding the cruelty of slavery. You can see this first by how many monuments they built, which is around 700, and the times they built them. You have a spike during the Civil Rights Movement, and you have an enormous spike when the NAACP was found, to name a few. And then you have the designs for these monuments to conceal the values that these people had or subvert them in some way. So you have the Jefferson Davis Monument, original design by Percy Griffin in 1896, was a temple as if he were some god. Then you have the Victory Arch, which the Confederacy didn't even win, but the UDC approved of in 1903. But this was what they eventually decided on, which was the Edward Valentine and William Nolan's design, which had Jefferson Davis placing his left hand on his farewell address which his farewell address said that the reason he left was from the high and solemn motive of defending and protecting the rights we inherited, in quotes, which if you see the Declaration of Secessions of each of those states, the right that they're protecting was slavery. But that's never mentioned here. It only says that on the left, he was an exponent of constitutional principles and a defender of state rights. And to show that he was some sort of patriot, they say that he was a citizen, soldier, and statesman before seceding, and that is why that he left. You also have the other works by Valentine that show his racial views. He had in the nation's ward, it's an African American boy smiling as if he's happy with his place in society as the nation's ward. And then you have knowledge is power of an African American boy sleeping as if he is unable to gain this knowledge. So these are clearly just racial stereotypes that are not true, and Valentine believed them, and show why he would be willing to create this monument for Jefferson Davis. So you can see the change in values as years have progressed. We've seen the Constitution rewritten in 1971, the Civil Rights Movement, and just by looking at these two pictures, you can clearly see the difference in values in Richmond. And destroying or removing these monuments doesn't take away, in my mind, anything regarding the history of this country, because on January 24th, 2022, Richmond City Council said that if they removed monuments, they'd be put in museums, and also that the Black History Museum and Cultural Center of Virginia would be in charge of that. By that happening, you have an actual historically true record of what happened and who these people were when they put these monuments up and why they put them up. And that's why I think they deserve to be taken down. Thank you.